The jungle was alive with sound. Strange cries echoed through the thick canopy, and heavy footsteps rumbled in the distance like thunder. The air itself felt heavy, filled with moisture and the bitter scent of poisonous plants. On this lonely and hostile planet, nothing was gentle. Every shadow hid a predator. Every tree dripped with danger. Lyra sat under the twisted roots of an enormous tree, hugging her thin arms around her body. Her silver-blue skin, once bright with the health of her people, was pale now, covered with dirt and scratches. Her long hair clung to her face, damp from sweat. She had not eaten properly in days, and her stomach felt like an empty pit. She had been here for years, abandoned, forgotten. Her own people, the proud Kavar, had left her to die. They had called it an exile, a punishment for failing to stand strong during the struggle for succession. In truth, it had been nothing less than a death sentence. The planet, called Vera 9 by human maps, was not fit for life. The beasts were too large, the plants too venomous, and the storms too violent. Yet somehow Lyra had endured. Not lived, endured. Every day was a battle. Every night was a nightmare. She pressed her forehead against the tree root and whispered, "How much longer can I last?" Her voice was hoarse, nearly gone from lack of water. The jungle answered not with kindness but with a scream, a monstrous cry, deep and bone-shaking. Lyra froze. She knew that sound well. It was a predator the size of a shuttle, a scaled beast with claws sharp enough to slice through stone. Slowly, she reached for the sharpened stick beside her, though she knew it would do little good. The ground trembled. Branches snapped. She could see its outline through the thick ferns, a long snout, jagged teeth, yellow eyes that glowed faintly in the shadows. It was hunting. Lyra held her breath. If she ran, it would hear. If she stayed, it might smell her. Her heart pounded so hard she feared it would give her away. The beast lowered its head, sniffing the ground. Its nostrils flared. She tightened her grip on the stick, ready to strike, even though she knew she stood no chance. She was tired of running. If this was the end, she would face it. But then, something unexpected happened. A sharp crack echoed in the jungle. Not the sound of a branch, but something different, a controlled sound. Then came another. The beast roared in pain. Bright flashes of light cut through the foliage, striking its hide. Lyra's eyes widened. She had never seen such weapons here. The predator turned, thrashing its tail and crashing into the trees. More flashes followed until the monster, enraged and hurt, stomped away, its roar fading into the distance. Silence returned. Lyra, trembling, peeked out from her hiding place. Through the leaves, she saw someone approaching. Not one of her kind, but a figure in strange armor, carrying a weapon that glowed faintly at the barrel. It was a human. She had heard of them long ago, whispers traded by her people. Humans were said to be reckless wanderers, quick to fight, quick to die, and unable to understand higher ways. She had never seen one with her own eyes. Now one was walking right toward her. The human's helmet retracted with a soft hiss, revealing a face. A man with tanned skin, dark hair cropped short, and sharp eyes that scanned the jungle carefully. His expression softened when he spotted her. "You're alive," he said in a low, steady voice. His language was different, but somehow she understood through the universal translator built into his suit. Lyra backed away, pressing her stick against her chest defensively. Her voice cracked. "Stay back. Who are you?" The man raised his free hand slowly, showing he meant no harm. "My name is Ethan Hale. I'm with the exploration ship Odyssey's Light. We picked up a weak signal from this planet. I came to check. I didn't expect to find anyone alive." His words barely reached her. Her people had abandoned her. Why would a human care? She shook her head. "Go away. You should not be here. This world will kill you too." Instead of leaving, Ethan crouched a safe distance away, lowering his weapon. His gaze moved to her thin frame, the dirt, the wounds. He sighed quietly. "You've been here a long time, haven't you?" Lyra looked away. Shame burned in her chest. She hated that he could see her weakness. "Too long," she whispered. Ethan reached into a small pack on his side and pulled out a sealed container. He opened it and slid it gently across the ground toward her. Inside was clear water, pure and clean. Lyra stared at it, her throat aching. She wanted it desperately, but her pride kept her frozen. "Why?" she asked. "Because you need it," Ethan said simply. The honesty in his voice shook her more than the monster's roar. Slowly, she reached forward and grabbed the container. The first sip made her eyes water. It was the first clean water she had tasted in years. For a long time, neither spoke. She drank, and he watched the jungle carefully, guarding her as though she mattered. It felt strange. No one had done that for her since before her exile. Finally, she lowered the container. "You should not have come. The storms here will tear your ship apart. The creatures will not stop hunting you." Ethan gave a small smile. "I've seen bad planets before, but I've never seen someone survive one alone." He studied her with curiosity. "You must be strong," Lyra blinked. No one had called her strong since the day she was cast out. For a moment, she didn't know how to answer. Then the jungle screamed again, the sound of many creatures moving together. Ethan stood quickly, his weapon ready. "We should move. This place isn't safe," Lyra hesitated. Trust did not come easily, but she remembered the monster fleeing from his strange weapon, the clean water he had given without demand. And for the first time in many years, she felt the smallest spark of hope. She nodded. "I will follow, but only because the jungle is worse." Ethan gave a short nod. "Fair enough. Let's get you somewhere safer." And so, side by side, they slipped into the thick shadows of the alien jungle, an exile who had been forgotten by her own kind, and a human who had come not to conquer, but to save. For the first time in years, Lyra did not feel entirely alone. The jungle was restless that night. The storm clouds above glowed faintly with flashes of lightning, and the trees shook as if they were alive. Every sound carried a warning. Lyra walked beside Ethan carefully, her bare feet quiet against the thick ground of roots and moss. Ethan moved ahead with calm steps, his weapon in hand, eyes scanning the shadows. For years she had walked these paths alone. She had memorized every twisted vine, every thorn, every dangerous sound. Yet tonight felt different. Someone walked with her. Ethan spoke softly without looking back. "You've survived here for a long time." "How?" Lyra hesitated. Her first instinct was to stay silent, but something in his voice was not demanding. It was curious, almost respectful. "I learned," she finally said. "I learned what not to eat. I learned where to hide. I learned when to run." Ethan gave a small nod. "Running isn't weakness. Sometimes it's survival." His words surprised her. Among her people, running was seen as shame. That was why she had been cast out, because she had not fought hard enough when the struggle for the throne came. To them, she had been unworthy. But this human thought differently. They stopped near a wide tree hollow, dark but dry. Ethan crouched and checked it with a small light from his wrist. "Looks clear. You can rest here," Lyra frowned. "And you?" "I'll keep watch," Ethan answered simply. She stared at him, confused. "Why, you don't know me. Why help me?" Ethan sat at the entrance of the hollow, setting his weapon across his knees. "Because you're alive. That's reason enough." His answer was so direct it unsettled her. Her people always wanted something in return. Power, loyalty, obedience. But this human expected nothing. Inside the hollow, Lyra curled against the roots. For the first time in years, she felt her eyes grow heavy. Not with fear, but with exhaustion. She whispered into the darkness, "Strange human," before sleep claimed her. The next morning, the jungle came alive again. Insects with glassy wings buzzed in swarms. Small lizard-like creatures darted across branches. In the distance, the heavy roar of a predator echoed like a drum. Ethan gave Lyra a ration pack. She studied the sealed package, confused. "Food," Ethan explained. "Not much, but better than roots and leaves." Lyra opened it carefully. Inside were small dried pieces of protein. She sniffed it with suspicion before tasting. Her eyes widened. It was not the bitter plant she was used to. It was rich, salty, and filled her mouth with warmth. "You share your supplies?" she asked slowly. Ethan shrugged. "I can't eat while you starve." "Doesn't feel right," Lyra lowered her gaze. For years she had begged scraps from poisonous plants and fought small beasts for meat. Now a stranger gave her food freely. It felt unreal. After they ate, they moved again. Ethan studied the jungle with his scanner. "Magnetic storms are bad here. My ship took damage when I landed. Might be stuck until I fix it." Lyra glanced at him sharply. "You mean you cannot leave?" "Not yet," Ethan admitted. "But I'll figure it out. I always do." Her chest tightened. Part of her wanted him to leave, to escape this cursed planet. Yet another part felt fear at the thought of being alone again. Their path took them to a wide clearing, where the ground was covered with strange, glowing plants. Lyra stiffened immediately. "Do not step there," she warned. Ethan paused. "Why?" She pointed to the plants. "They release spores. If you breathe, your lungs will close. Death is slow." Ethan nodded, respecting her words, and marked the area on his scanner. "Good catch." As they turned away, the ground suddenly shook. Trees bent as something massive moved nearby. From the shadows, 3 predators emerged, smaller than the beast from before, but just as deadly. They were lean, wolf-like creatures with sharp claws and glowing eyes. Lyra's breath caught. "Hunters." The creatures circled them, growling low. Ethan lifted his weapon slowly, aiming carefully. But there were 3, too many to kill quickly. One of the hunters leapt forward. Lyra screamed as it lunged. Ethan fired, the blast striking its chest and sending it rolling back with a howl. The other 2 attacked at once. Ethan pushed Lyra aside and swung his weapon like a staff, striking one across the jaw. The second beast tackled him, claws raking his armor. He grunted, holding it back, but the strength of the creature was enormous. Lyra's heart pounded. She could run. She could hide. That was what she had always done. But something stopped her. Ethan had not run from her. He had given her water, food, protection. Now he was fighting for her. She grabbed a sharp rock from the ground and, with trembling hands, slammed it into the side of the beast, attacking Ethan. The creature roared in pain and turned on her, but Ethan used the opening to fire again. The blast ended it. The last hunter, seeing its pack destroyed, snarled and fled into the jungle. Breathing hard, Ethan lowered his weapon. His armor was scratched, but he was alive. He looked at Lyra with surprise. "You fought back." Lyra's hands shook as she dropped the bloody rock. I could not let it take you." Ethan gave a faint smile. "Good, we make a decent team." Her chest felt strange at his words, a team. She had not been part of anything for so long. That night they sat by a small fire Ethan had made. The flames flickered, keeping insects and small creatures away. Lyra sat close, watching the fire with wide eyes. "I never dared make fire here," she admitted. "It draws hunters." "True," Ethan said. "But it also keeps others away. Fire's a tool. Depends how you use it." She thought about that in silence. Everything for her had always been danger. But for him, even danger became a tool. Finally, she asked the question that had burned in her mind all day. "Why do humans help others? Even strangers?" Ethan poked the fire with a stick. "Not all do, but me. I guess I can't walk away from someone who needs help. Maybe it's just how I was raised. My father used to say, if you can save a life, you should. Doesn't matter whose life it is." Lyra listened quietly. Her people had told her a very different lesson. Only the strong deserved to live. Only the strong deserved loyalty. The weak were nothing. She looked at him with soft eyes. "Humans are not like the stories I heard," Ethan chuckled. "Stories rarely tell the whole truth." The fire crackled between them. For the first time, Lyra felt warmth not only on her skin but inside her chest. Days passed. They moved together through the jungle, always alert, always cautious. Lyra showed Ethan which rivers were safe, which fruits would not kill him, which paths avoided nests of poisonous insects. In return, Ethan showed her tricks she had never imagined. How to set traps, how to make signals with light, how to ration food properly. Each day, she grew stronger. Her body healed with clean water and safe meals. Her spirit, broken for years, began to lift. One evening, as they rested on a rocky ledge overlooking the endless jungle, Lyra spoke softly. "When you first came, I thought you were a ghost, or a dream." Ethan smiled faintly. "Sorry to disappoint." "Just human," she shook her head. "No, not just. You are different." He looked at her seriously. "So are you. Anyone else left here would be long gone, but you endured." His words lit something inside her. She was not worthless. She was not nothing. She had endured, and now she was not alone. Far above them, storm clouds rolled. The jungle growled with the endless cries of its monsters. But for the first time in years, Lyra felt safe, because beside her was a human who fought not for power, not for duty, but simply because saving her life mattered, and though she did not yet know it. This first encounter was only the beginning of something far greater, something that would change not only her fate, but perhaps the fate of both their peoples. The sun of Vera 9 was pale, filtered through thick gray clouds and the endless canopy of twisted trees. For most beings, this planet was nothing but death. Yet for Ethan and Lyra, every new dawn meant another chance to live. Ethan adjusted the straps of his pack as he studied the rough terrain. His scanner buzzed faintly, showing interference from the planet's unstable magnetic field. "No signal," he muttered. "Still can't reach the ship." Lyra walked a few steps behind, carrying a long branch sharpened into a spear. Her movements were lighter now. Weeks earlier she had been little more than a shadow, surviving on scraps and fear. But with Ethan she was changing. She had eaten, rested, and learned. Her eyes no longer looked empty. They were alive again. "Will your ship come back for you?" she asked. Ethan shook his head. "The storm knocked out most of the comms. I need to repair the landing craft first, then maybe I can call for pickup." Lyra frowned. "That means we are trapped here." "Not trapped," Ethan said calmly. "Delayed." She almost laughed, but the sound caught in her throat. For years she had thought of herself as trapped. To Ethan it was only a delay, another problem to solve. He never spoke as if things were impossible. They moved through a stretch of swampy ground, where strange vines floated on black water. The air smelled sour, and bubbles rose from the mud. Lyra warned softly, "Do not touch the vines, they will wrap around you. They drink blood." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Good to know. Let's keep moving." He threw a small piece of metal into the water. Instantly the vines shifted and twisted, wrapping around it like snakes. Lyra shivered, but Ethan gave a low whistle. "Efficient little monsters. You see danger, and you admire it," Lyra said. "Not admire," Ethan corrected. "Understand. If I understand it, I can fight it. Or avoid it. Knowledge is survival." She thought about his words as they carefully crossed the swamp, stepping only where the roots held firm. For her, danger had always been something to fear. For him it was something to study, something that could be turned into a weapon or a shield. Later, as night approached, they built a shelter high in the branches of a massive tree. Ethan used rope from his pack while Lyra gathered broad leaves to cover the platform. She watched as he tied the ropes with practiced skill. "You know how to live in wild places," she said. "Spent years in training," Ethan replied. "Humans don't like to admit it. But we've been surviving in hostile places since the beginning. Every planet we visit, we learn. We adapt." He looked at her. "You've done the same. You've survived here longer than anyone thought possible." Her hands paused. She had never thought of herself as strong, only desperate. Yet hearing Ethan say it made her feel a spark of pride. When the shelter was finished, they sat by a small controlled fire. Ethan heated another ration pack and offered it to her. She accepted it without hesitation now. Trust had grown, slowly but surely. "Your people," Ethan said gently. "Why did they leave you here?" Lyra stiffened. The memory burned like a wound. "They said I was weak. I did not fight for the throne as they wanted. To them, weakness is worse than death. So they gave me death." Ethan's jaw tightened. "That wasn't weakness. That was cruelty." She looked into the fire. "Among my people, compassion is seen as weakness. But you fight to protect. You share food. You make fire to give warmth. You are not like them." Ethan poked at the fire with a stick. "Maybe weakness isn't about what others say. Maybe it's giving up when you could keep going, and you haven't given up." Lyra's eyes softened. For years she had lived with shame. Now, for the first time, she wondered if survival itself had been a kind of strength. The following day, they set traps near the tree line. Ethan showed Lyra how to bend branches into snares, how to use vines for tension. "Creatures are stronger here," he explained, "but they're still predictable. Hunger makes them careless." Lyra watched as he demonstrated. When a small beast tried to dart past, the trap snapped shut, lifting it into the air. The creature thrashed until it went still. Her eyes widened. "You caught it," Ethan grinned. "Dinner." That night they roasted the meat carefully. Lyra tasted it with suspicion but soon realized it was far better than the poisonous plants she had been forced to eat. She chewed slowly, savoring it. "You make survival. Feel less like dying," she whispered. Ethan chuckled. Survival isn't just about not dying. It's about living until you're free again. She looked at him in wonder. For her, survival had been a cage. For him, it was a bridge to something better. One evening, the jungle tested them with its fury. A storm ripped across the sky, lightning striking trees with blinding flashes. The wind roared and rain poured like a river. Their shelter shook violently. Lyra clung to the ropes. "It will break!" Ethan braced against the storm, holding the structure steady. "Hold on, it'll pass." But then came a worse sound, a deep rumble, the snapping of branches, and a roar that drowned out the thunder. A colossal predator, larger than any Lyra had seen before, crashed through the trees. Its scales shimmered in the lightning and its eyes glowed red. "It's hunting us," Lyra cried. Ethan pulled her close and shouted over the storm, "Stay behind me." The beast struck at the tree, claws tearing bark. The shelter shook. Ethan fired his weapon, blasts of light striking the monster's hide, but it barely slowed. Lyra's heart raced. She remembered every night of terror, every time she had hidden from such beasts. But tonight was different. She was not alone. Ethan shouted, "The vines, use the vines!" She understood instantly. Grabbing a heavy vine, she swung it down as the beast raised its head. The vine wrapped around its jaw, pulling it sideways. Ethan fired again, this time striking the softer flesh of its throat. The creature roared, stumbled, and finally turned away, vanishing into the storm. Breathing hard, they collapsed against the shelter wall. Rain poured in, but they were alive. Ethan looked at her with pride. "Good thinking. You acted fast." Lyra trembled, but she felt a fierce glow inside. We fought it together." "Exactly," Ethan said. "Together." The days turned into a rhythm. Hunt, build, repair, survive. Each challenge made them stronger, not weaker. Lyra no longer walked behind Ethan. She walked beside him. She no longer whispered in fear. She spoke with calm determination. One afternoon they sat near a cliffside overlooking the endless jungle. The air was hot, but the wind carried the scent of rain. Lyra asked softly, "When you leave this world, what will you do?" Ethan thought for a moment. "Go back to my crew, keep exploring. That's what we humans do, we keep moving forward." "And me?" she asked hesitantly. Ethan looked at her seriously. "That's your choice, but you don't have to stay here, not anymore." Her throat tightened. She had never thought of leaving. It had seemed impossible. But now, maybe not. She whispered, almost afraid of the words, "If I came with you, would your people accept me?" Ethan smiled faintly. "Humans aren't perfect, but we're not in the habit of abandoning those who stand beside us. If you want a place, you'll have one." For a long moment, Lyra said nothing. Then she turned her eyes to the horizon. For years, she had seen only prison. Now she saw possibility. That night, as the stars broke through the storm clouds, Ethan adjusted the small beacon he had been repairing. Sparks flickered, but the device slowly came to life. Lyra sat nearby, watching the faint glow. "Will it call your ship?" "Maybe," Ethan said. "It's a start." She nodded, then whispered, "I don't fear being alone anymore. Not while you are here." Ethan glanced at her, his expression gentle. "You won't be alone. Not again." The jungle howled around them, but inside the circle of firelight, there was something new. Something Lyra had never felt before. Not just survival, not just endurance, but hope. And that hope was stronger than any storm, stronger than any beast, stronger even than the chains of her past. The sky of Vera 9 had always been dark with storms, but that morning the clouds broke. For the first time in many weeks, a strip of blue appeared overhead. Lyra stood on the cliffside, looking at the endless jungle below. Her chest rose with something she had not felt in years: calm. Behind her, Ethan adjusted the beacon. He had been repairing it day by day, connecting wires, testing signals, waiting for the magnetic storms to ease. At last it was stable enough to send out a faint call. "It's transmitting," Ethan said, his eyes on the blinking light. Someone out there might hear it. Lyra's heart beat faster. His people, his ship. The thought should have made her happy. Instead it filled her with worry. For once she had begun to imagine a future, one where she wasn't alone. What if this signal brought only goodbye? She turned her eyes back to the horizon. For years no one from her own race had come for her. They had left her to rot. She told herself they had forgotten. She told herself she didn't care. But part of her still burned with anger. That night the jungle shook with a sound different from thunder. A deep rumble rolled through the sky, followed by flashes of light above the clouds. Ethan looked up sharply. "That's not lightning," he muttered. Lyra's eyes widened. The sound was familiar, though it had been long since she had heard it. "A starship," she whispered. "No, it cannot be." From the heavens a massive vessel broke through the clouds, its hull glowing with blue energy. It was sleek, sharp, and powerful, the design unmistakable. Her people. The Kavar. Ethan's hand tightened around his weapon. "Friends of yours?" Lyra shook her head slowly. Her body trembled. "Not friends. My jailers." The ship hovered above the jungle, sending beams of light down to the surface. Within moments, small scout craft descended, their engines shrieking. Ethan pulled Lyra into the cover of the trees. "They must have picked up the signal," he said. "They did not come for me before," Lyra whispered bitterly. "They only come now because they sense something to claim." Soon armored figures marched through the undergrowth, tall Kavar soldiers, their armor shining with dark silver. Their eyes glowed faintly through their helmets, and their voices echoed in a language Lyra knew too well. "Search the area. The exile is alive. Bring her." Her chest tightened. They had not come to rescue. They had come to retrieve what they thought was theirs. The soldiers moved quickly, their scanning devices sweeping the jungle. Ethan crouched low beside her. "We can't fight all of them," he whispered. "No," Lyra agreed, "but we cannot run forever." The words surprised even her. She had spent years running. Now she wanted to stand. Ethan placed a steady hand on her shoulder. "We'll find another way." They slipped deeper into the trees, moving quietly. But the soldiers were skilled. Soon a group blocked their path. One soldier raised a weapon. "Exile Lyra of the Kavar. By command of the High Council, you are to return at once." Lyra stepped forward, her chin high, though her heart pounded. "You left me here to die." The soldier's voice was cold. "You survived. That means you are stronger now. The Council may still use you." Ethan stepped between them, his own weapon raised. "She's not going anywhere she doesn't want to." The soldier tilted his head, scanning Ethan with disdain. "A human? This lesser species dares interfere?" Ethan didn't flinch. "Call me what you want. She chooses her own path." The soldier's eyes glowed brighter. "Humans are foolish, always bleeding for others, always wasting strength on weakness." Lyra's voice cut through the tension. "If compassion is weakness, then weakness saved me when you abandoned me." The soldiers shifted, uncertain. They were not used to hearing defiance from an exile. The leader raised his weapon higher. "Come willingly, or the human dies." Ethan tightened his grip, ready to fight. Lyra's heart twisted. She could not let him be killed because of her. "No," she shouted, stepping in front of Ethan. "You will not harm him." The soldier paused, surprised by her boldness. Lyra glared at them with a fire that had long been buried. "I am not your possession. I am not your tool. You left me here as nothing, yet this human gave me water when I was thirsty. He gave me food when I was starving. He fought monsters at my side when you were not there.
He gave me life again."
You will not take him from me." The jungle fell silent. Even the soldiers shifted uneasily. Ethan placed a hand on her arm, steadying her. His voice was calm but firm. "We should move now." He threw a smoke charge, filling the clearing with a thick cloud. Together they slipped away into the shadows while the soldiers cursed and searched blindly. They did not stop until they reached the shelter near the cliffs. Both breathed heavily, their hearts racing. Ethan sat against a rock, wiping sweat from his forehead. "Well, that was close." Lyra looked at him, her eyes fierce. "They will not stop. They think they own me. But I am not theirs. I choose," Ethan nodded slowly. "Then we'll fight together." Her gaze softened. "Why do you risk everything for me? You could have left. You could have saved yourself." He looked at her directly. "Because no one deserves to be thrown away, not you. Not anyone." Her chest tightened with emotion. For years she had been told she was nothing. Now, with a human by her side, she began to believe she was something more. The next day, the alien ship loomed larger overhead. Patrols grew heavier. Drones scanned the jungle with red beams. Lyra and Ethan moved carefully, avoiding capture. At one point, a drone spotted them. Ethan shot it down, but the blast gave away their position. Within minutes, soldiers closed in. This time, there was no escape. Surrounded, Lyra and Ethan stood back to back, weapons ready. The commander of the squad stepped forward, removing his helmet. His face was sharp, his skin the same silver blue as Lyra's, though his eyes were cold. "You waste your time, sister," he said. Lyra's breath caught. She knew that voice. Her older brother, Kale, the one who had taken the throne when she had refused to fight for it. Her hands trembled. Kale's expression was cruel. "You always lacked strength. That is why you were cast aside. Yet now you shame me further, standing with a human." Ethan looked between them. "Brother?" Lyra swallowed hard. "He was the heir. I was in his way. He ensured I was removed." Kyle's eyes flashed. "And now I will finish it. You had your chance to die with honor. Instead you chose weakness." He raised his weapon. Lyra's heart pounded, but Ethan stepped forward, blocking her. "If you want her," Ethan said coldly, "you'll have to go through me." Kale sneered. "So be it." Before the standoff could explode, the ground shook violently. From the jungle burst a massive beast drawn by the noise. It roared, towering above both soldiers and survivors alike. Chaos erupted. Soldiers scattered, firing at the monster. Trees crashed down as the beast charged. Ethan grabbed Lyra's hand. "Now's our chance." Together they ran, weaving through the chaos as the beast tore into the soldiers. Blaster fire lit the jungle, screams echoing as the monster ripped through their lines. Only when they were far from the battle did they stop, gasping for air. Lyra's hands shook, but her eyes burned with determination. "He will not stop. Kale will hunt me until one of us falls." Ethan's expression hardened. "Then we'll be ready for him." That night, as the alien ship's lights swept the jungle, Lyra sat beside Ethan at the fire. "I once thought my people were unbreakable," she said softly. "But I see now they are afraid. Afraid of compassion. Afraid of choice. That is why they tried to silence me." Ethan looked at her with quiet pride. "Then don't let them. You've already proven stronger than they ever believed." She turned her eyes to him. "With you, I'm not afraid anymore." The jungle roared around them, and the alien ship thundered in the sky. War was coming. But in that moment, Lyra knew one truth. She was no longer the abandoned exile. She was someone worth fighting for. And together with Ethan, she would face whatever came next. The jungle of Vera 9 had never been so restless. Beasts howled in the distance, stirred by the thunder of ships in the sky. The massive vessel of the Kavar hung above the world like a shadow, its engines rumbling like an endless storm. Lyra stood on the cliffs with Ethan at her side, watching the lights sweep across the land. Her eyes were sharp, her heart heavy. "He will not leave until I kneel," she whispered. Ethan's jaw tightened. "Then we make sure you never kneel." They had survived countless dangers together, monsters, storms, hunger, and despair. But this was different. This was a war against an enemy that believed ownership was strength and compassion was weakness. And the one who led them was not just her enemy. He was her brother, preparing for battle. The two of them returned to their shelter, gathering everything they had. Weapons scavenged from fallen soldiers, energy cells, smoke grenades. Ethan even repaired one of the drones they had captured, turning it into a small scout. Lyra studied him as he worked. His hands were steady, his focus sharp. He had no armor, no great power like the Kavar soldiers, but he had something far greater, an unbreakable will. "Humans fight with so little," she murmured. Ethan glanced at her. "Sometimes little is enough," she gave a faint smile. "Perhaps that is why I trust you." That night, the alien ship opened fire on the jungle. Beams of blue energy scorched the land, burning trees to ash. Kale wanted to flush them out. "We can't hide much longer," Ethan said. "No," Lyra agreed, standing tall. "It is time to face him." She no longer wanted to run. The years of silence and pain had taught her fear. But the weeks with Ethan had taught her something stronger. Choice. She would not live as prey any longer. Confrontation with Kale at dawn. They marched toward the landing zone where Kale's soldiers had established a base. Towers of metal rose from the jungle, with energy shields glowing faintly around them. Patrols moved in formation. their boots sinking into the black soil. When the soldiers spotted the two figures walking openly from the jungle, confusion rippled through their lines. "Exile Lyra," one barked. "You dare approach—" "I do not approach in chains," she shouted, her voice carrying across the camp. "I approach to tell you that I am free." The soldiers shifted uneasily. Many had been taught she was nothing, yet here she stood, alive, defiant. Kale himself emerged from the central platform. His armor gleamed, his eyes glowing cold and sharp. He looked down at her as if she were already defeated. "You should have stayed hidden," Kale said, his voice echoing. "Now your human will watch you die." Ethan raised his weapon. "I wouldn't be so sure," Kale sneered. "A single man against the might of the Kavar? You are a fool." Lyra stepped closer, glaring up at her brother. "No, Kale, the fool is the one who believes power is measured only in fear." "The battle begins," Kale raised his hand. Soldiers surged forward. Blasters roared. Ethan and Lyra moved fast, taking cover behind the wreckage of a fallen craft. Ethan fired precise shots, hitting weak points in the soldiers' armor. Lyra, though without heavy weapons, fought with speed and cunning, striking at the soldiers with captured blades, using the jungle itself as her ally. The battle was chaos. Explosions shook the ground. Smoke filled the air. The beast cries of the jungle grew louder, drawn by the noise. Through it all, Ethan and Lyra fought back to back, covering one another. Every time Ethan faltered, Lyra's blade struck true. Every time Lyra was cornered, Ethan's fire drove the enemy back. "They're pushing us," Ethan shouted. "Then we push harder," Lyra replied, her eyes blazing. Ethan versed Kale at last. Kale himself entered the fray. His armor shimmered with energy, his weapon glowing like a burning star. "You cannot win," Kale said coldly. "You are nothing but an exile. And you—" He turned his eyes to Ethan. "You are nothing at all." Ethan stood firm. "Funny. Nothing has stopped you every step of the way," Kale charged. His blows were fast and merciless. Ethan barely dodged, the energy blade cutting deep into the rock where he had stood. Sparks flew as Ethan countered with blaster fire, but Kale's shield absorbed the hits. Lyra tried to intervene, but Kale struck her aside with a blast of energy. She hit the ground hard, her vision swimming. "Stay down," Kale growled. "This ends with your death," but Ethan refused to fall. His body ached, his breath burned, but he kept moving. He had no shield, no armor, but he had grit. He used the environment, blinding Kale with smoke, forcing him into the narrow spaces of the jungle where his armor was less effective. "You fight like an insect," Kale snarled. "No," Ethan said, his voice steady even as sweat dripped down his face. "I fight like a human." Lyra's awakening. As Ethan fought, Lyra struggled to rise. Her body screamed with pain, but her heart burned. Memories of her exile flashed before her eyes. The years of hunger, the silence, the endless nights of despair. And then came the memory of Ethan's hand pulling her from the dirt. He had given her strength when she had none. Now it was her turn. With a cry, she surged to her feet and hurled herself at Kale. Her blade struck his shield, sparks flying. "You will not take him from me." Kale staggered back at her fury. Together, she and Ethan pressed the attack, striking in rhythm. For the first time, Kale faltered. "You, both," he snarled. "This is weakness!" "No," Lyra shouted, her voice echoing across the battlefield. "This is strength. The strength you never understood." The beast of the jungle as the duel raged. The ground shook again. From the forest emerged the same monstrous beast that had disrupted the earlier battle. A towering creature of claws and scales. Drawn by the blood and noise, it charged into the camp, tearing through soldiers and machinery alike. Panic spread among the Kavar ranks. Kale cursed. "Even the beasts rise against me." Ethan seized the moment. "Lyra, now." Together they lured Kale toward the beast. At the last second, they dove aside. The monster roared and struck at Kale with its massive claws, shattering his shield. Kale was thrown to the ground, his armor sparking. Lyra stood over him, blade at his throat. Her brother glared up at her, hatred burning in his eyes. "Do it," Kale hissed. "Prove you are stronger." Her hand trembled. For a moment, old anger filled her veins. She could end it all now. But then she looked at Ethan. His steady eyes, his quiet strength. She lowered the blade. "No," she said firmly. "Strength is not killing. Strength is choosing not to become what you are." Kale's eyes widened in disbelief. Ethan stepped forward. "Your time is over." The beast roared again, forcing Kale to flee. Broken, humiliated, he retreated with the remaining soldiers to the ship. Within minutes, the massive vessel lifted from the jungle, fire trailing from its engines as it vanished into the clouds. Victory, silence fell. The jungle smoldered. Wreckage lay scattered. The beast, satisfied, lumbered back into the trees. Lyra and Ethan stood together on the battlefield, battered but alive. "You spared him," Ethan said quietly. "Yes," Lyra whispered, "because I will not be him. I will not be their weapon anymore." Ethan gave a faint smile. "That's what makes you stronger than all of them." She turned to him, her eyes soft. "No, Ethan, that's what makes us stronger." A new future in the days that followed, they repaired the beacon again. This time not to call the Kavar, but to reach any passing ship, human or otherwise. As they worked, Lyra felt something new inside her. Hope. Not the fragile hope she had clung to during her exile, but a living hope born of choice and companionship. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the cliffs, she stood beside Ethan and looked at the horizon. "I was once nothing," she said softly, "forgotten, left to decay. But with you, I have found myself again." Ethan looked at her, his eyes steady and kind. "You were never nothing, Lyra. You just needed someone to remind you." They stood in silence, the wind carrying the scent of the jungle, the stars beginning to shine. Somewhere above, freedom waited, and this time they would claim it together. Ending note on Vera 9, the storm cloud slowly parted. The world that had once been her prison now felt different, less like a cage, more like the place where she was reborn. For Lyra, the exile was over. For Ethan, the mission had changed. Together, human and alien, they had faced monsters, armies, and even the cold cruelty of her own blood. And together they had won.